Okay, let's take a look at integrating the jsHarmony CMS into an existing Laravel application. We'll be using the simple content folder integration method. Here we have this voting app. The way the simple content folder integration works is basically we create a public folder and we have our CMS publish its content there. So we'll create a new folder called content. This is where the CMS will publish the content, and then we'll also need to create a template that the CMS will use to create the pages. So this site has two layouts. It has an app layout for logged-in users and a guest layout for non-logged-in users. Since we're generating static HTML files, we'll use the guest layout. So we'll create a new view for our template. And we'll add a route for that new template. Okay, there we go. Now let's add the layout itself. Looks like it was applied. And we'll add a container div. Now let's add a title tag. And our page content in the body. So this sample Laravel application here uses its Tailwind for the CSS. All right, great. So here's our template. Now let's go back to our CMS. In our CMS, we'll need to add a new site for the Laravel application. And we'll also add a new deployment target at that site. So tell the site where to deploy. Actually, here we'll use something called the CMS deployment host. This is a pretty cool feature. What this does is it lets us run an agent that's going to allow the CMS to deploy the files to your local dev machine. So we'll go to our content folder here. So that's under public and content. And we'll run this program called jsHarmony CMS host. If you go to the GitHub page for this, You can install this using npm. You can install it globally using the CLI, and then you can run this jsHarmony CMS host program from anywhere in your machine. We're going to put the URL of the CMS server. And where to copy the files to. Okay, great. So now that that's connected, we can select our dev machine as a deployment target. We'll also set it to ignore certificate errors when downloading the remote templates, since we're using self-signed certificates on this test site. And for the URL prefix, we'll need to set it to /content, because that's where our content files are going to be published. So now that we have that, we will go ahead and add our page template. So this is going to be a remote template. We'll put in that URL for the guest template. Call it the default template here. And if you go into dev mode, you can preview how it's going to look. So currently we don't have any editable areas defined, and the template isn't integrated with the site. So let's do that. So we'll go back to our deployment target, and on the integration code tab, we can actually here we're not even using the PHP, we're just using the standard remote template integration code. So we'll copy this, paste it into our layout, and we'll need to make sure to copy this jsHarmony CMS client.min.js file over. We can find the jsHarmony CMS client.min.js. At least there will be a link to it from the Laravel integration page. So here, if you go to configuring remote templates, you can download the jsHarmony CMS client.min.js. Alternatively, you can find this on GitHub. So we'll copy that file, create a new public JS file for that. So it's going to be in /js /jsHarmony CMS client.min.js. And now if we go back to our template, it should at least attempt to load the editor. So let's see what's happening. It's like jsHarmony CMS client is not defined. So oh, yeah, made a typo here. Okay, here we go. So now the editor loaded. A couple of things we need to do. This first one says we need to add the CMS title attribute because we don't have a title element defined on the page. So let's go back to our template, and here we will add the CMS title attribute to the page title. Refresh. Okay, and next issue here is we don't have content area for the body, so it wants us to add this content, a content editor definition to the container for the page body content. So we'll save that, refresh, and there we go. Looks like our page is now editable. So both the page title and the page body are editable and integrated in the CMS. So now what we'll do, let's go back to the CMS and add a page or two. So here's the new site, the new voting app we created. We'll actually need to check out that site in the CMS to edit its pages. We need to start out by cloning the master to create a revision that we're working out of. We'll call it initial. And now we can add a page. So we'll add an About Us page. We'll use that new template. And now that that's ready, let's try to publish. Okay, yeah, one other thing we have to make sure that we do when we're creating that deployment target is download remote templates via deployment host. Because if we're using deployment host and we're trying to use our local non-public dev server, then we need to make sure that the templates are downloaded through that deployment host as well. So let's try publishing again, see what happens. And there we go. And here is our page accessible on the site. And if we go back to our Laravel app, you can see that the CMS published to this About folder.